Hey guys, it's Fox here. Sorry if I sound a little nasally, I have a cold right now, so please just put up with it. Anyways, this computer here is a Ryzen 7 7800 X2D with an RTX 4080, has 32 gigabytes of RAM, and of course, has all my bells and whistles of having networking and RGB and whatnot. Anyways, so I'm just going to be showing you some benchmarks how this computer performs. So right now we're just running a basic OCCT test. It has a combined test of RAM, CPU, GPU, and memory. And as we see, it's actually holding its temperature on the CPU very well, around 76, 77 degrees at that 100% usage. We see the RAM is being used up to 30 megabytes. I actually had to downclock this RAM. I believe it's the motherboard, because the motherboard didn't support the RAM at 6000 megahertz, so I have it downclocked to 5500 instead. And then, of course, the GPU is holding just fine. It's using the full memory buffer right there. It's not getting any higher than like maybe 55C, maybe 56C. But we'll see in games that might get a little bit hotter than that. But I'm going to go ahead and skip the tested end results. Alright, as you can see, the test is about to finish. And as you can see, the CPU just got up to about 75C. Memory is about 57C under that full load, and the GPU never really hit above 55 or 56C. So we're going to get to some actual gaming tests now, and you're going to see what this bad boy does. Sadly, it's only 1080p. I have a whole setup, and my setup's really jank right now. I want to do it in 4K, but things wouldn't come out right, so we're only going to be testing in 1080p. So here we have Marvel Rivals, and what I do with Marvel Rivals, I just use the in-game benchmarking tool. And it'd be hard for me to play a game and get something accurate, especially with my own test setup where things just aren't set up right. So as you can see, all the settings I have set to either a performance or really high. So in this example, I actually have ultra quality with low settings, which I think is quite realistic. And we're just going to run that basic test. So I'm just going to walk you through what's happening here. So as it's loading, I want to describe how my setup is. I have an Elgato hooked into one of my old monitors, and then two different computers. So the actual computer recording the other computer here. So that performance shouldn't be impacting the gameplay at all. So as you see, we come out at the bat. This is 1080p low settings, 250 FPS, and we see 1% lows are about 170, 0.1% lows about 22. And really, this is about what I expected. A little bit better than what my computer outputs, but I was expecting because my computer is a Ryzen 7 9700X with a 5070. And we see that we do hold this 300 up to 300 FPS throughout this whole test. It will dip down sometimes, most certainly. In fact, we see that example right here, where it hits about 200 FPS for a minute, but it will dip down. And of course, given the nature of how MSI Afterburner works, that 0.1% FPS will stay pretty low for the duration of the test, especially as it transitions from scene to scene. So that's why usually I try to better explain things. There are other kind of videos where they'll just put up the numbers on the screen, just have you assess it yourself, but I try to explain things because these numbers do matter and will vary for different reasons. And the reason you just saw it reset actually is because between scenes, I'll go in and reset the benchmark so it stays accurate. So this is about to be the end of this benchmark, but we do see that in the most intensive of scenarios, at least in this replay, we are upholding about 250 FPS pretty consistently, which is pretty good for this kind of computer. And we're going to move on to the next benchmark after looking at these results here. And we see it says extremely smooth. So it took a lot to get this Black Myth Wukong benchmark running. It took so much and it was so annoying to get it running properly that I actually forgot to show you the settings, but you should be able to see them at the end here. But what I like about running Black Myth Wukong is because of how GPU intensive it is, and also with my tests I can show you how games actually use your memory usage. You'll see right there in the top left it says memory usage proc. That's memory usage process. So the game's only using 6 gigabytes of memory. And this is 1080p. This is 1080p, very high settings. I don't have RT on, but very high settings, only 6 gigs. Like, whoa, it should be using more for this kind of game, don't you think? But we do see that the game is hitting a stable 130 frames in 1080p high settings, and actually no, not even high settings, cinematic settings. You see the GPU's getting what is this 67, 68C. It's barely heating up at all. This so even though this is a Zotac card, Zotac usually has one of the weaker cooling performances, but it's holding steady. So I really do think that this kind of game here should be one of the next levels of benchmarks for games because it's a very intensive game, but it's also pretty optimized. Despite how bad it might run some older hardware, if you have it on higher settings, it still runs pretty good because it's cinematic settings, 1080p, and it's still easily hitting above that 100 FPS mark with 1% lows and 0.1% lows of 40 and 50 FPS. So I think that this kind of game should be the standard of how we need these hyper realistic games to perform at this point. And as this benchmark is wrapping up, if you guys want to see more videos like this, maybe it's slightly higher quality when I don't have a cold, I don't have a big fan in the background going off, let me know. I can do more videos like this of different builds I have. I have another build recorded with some of those benchmarks with a 3700X and I believe a 3070. So yeah, that's pretty nice. It also shows how only 16 gigabytes of RAM also impact gaming because can only use 16 gigabytes of RAM in that kind of build. So, if you guys want to see videos like that where I go more in depth on why games perform the way they do and why I do test these kind of games in this specific kind of way, drop a follow, let me know. I'd really appreciate it. And other than that, I hope you have a good day and a little bit better understanding.